So today we're going to go ahead and talk about loops, and then we will talk about constructors if we have time. So just one more minute and then we'll get started. So basically loops are used to, yesterday we talked about collections, right? When you have more than one element and there are three main data types which hold collection of elements. One was a list, then we had a set, and then we had a map. So usually in order to go over the elements of a list or a set or a map, we use loops. Okay, and loops in general is basically used to run a set of instructions multiple times. So there are three main types of loop. Majority of the time you will either use a for loop or a while loop. Okay, there might be a case here and there where you use a do while. There is a slight difference between while and do while, and I'll tell you what it is. So let's start with a for loop. Okay, so there are different ways of writing a for loop. So for loop, in we will go ahead and use a keyword for, that is the starting of the for loop, and then we will have three parts of it. Okay, so and these parts are separated by this semicolon. Okay, so this is how usually a for loop is written. In the first part is called as the initialization part. Okay, that is called as the initialization, and it only executes one time, initialization part. Then there is a condition. Okay, the next part you will write is a condition, and every time a condition is checked, and if the condition is true, the for loop will execute as long as the condition is true. And then the last part is called as an increment or a decrement. This is how you write a for loop, increment or a decrement. So in this case, these are, guys, if you're not talking, please keep yourself mute. So the first part is called the initialization part. The second part is a condition. And the third part we have is an increment and a decrement part. Okay. Now, for example, a very simple one, we will go ahead and say for integer, we will initialize, this is the part, initialize I is equals to 1, let's say. And then we will put a semicolon. We will say I less than equals to 5, and then we will say I plus plus, means increment of, this is an increment operator, I plus plus. It increases the value of I by 1. And then inside of this we will have a opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. And remember, there is no semicolon after the for loop. There are two semicolon inside the for loop. One is over here between the initialization and the condition check, and then you have is the another semicolon between condition and the increment. And let's say I have written a system dot of debug, um, debug, and then I'm printing the value of I. Okay, so how is this for loop gonna work? This part of the equation, which is integer I is equals to 1, it only execute one time in this whole for loop. Okay, so we are basically declaring a variable called I, and we are setting up the value of the variable to 1. Okay, that is what this block is doing, and this block will not again execute. This is only one time it's going to execute. Then this condition will be checked, I less than equals to 5. So is the value of I current value is 1, is 1 less than equals to 5? Yes, 1 is less than 5. And then it will execute this condition. So it is printing the value of I. What is the value of I is 1, so 1 will be displayed on the screen. Once you have, once it is executed all the condition, all the instructions inside the for loop, it could be one statement, 10 statement, doesn't matter. Right now we only have one statement. But once it has executed everything, the cursor will go to this condition, I plus plus. Now, what does it do? It increases the value of I by 1. So now I becomes I plus 1. What is the value of I? 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. So the new value of I becomes 2. Okay. Now the cursor or the execution will come to this block, this thing. Again, the condition will be checked. Is I less than equals to 5? Yes. 2 is less than equals to 5. And the condition is true. It will come inside. It will print the value of I. What is the value of I? 2. So the 2 would be printed on the screen. Again, it will increment the I by 1, and it will, the new value of I would be 3, because 2 plus 1 becomes 3. 3 is still less than equals to 5. Again, the for loop executes. It will print the value of I 3, and it will go up till 5. Okay. Then again 5 plus plus. So what is 5 plus plus? 5 plus plus is equals to 6. Is 6 less than equals to 5? No, it is not. So the for loop is not going to get executed, and the execution will come outside of the for loop. So this particular block will execute with these output. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 will be displayed onto the screen. So this is your simple for loop. The other for loop we have, you can have a loop like this also. Like you can, it's not a, there's nothing wrong. You can have integer I is equals to 1 declared outside. Inside of the for loop, you can leave this part empty, have a semicolon, check your condition equals to 5, and then I plus plus. This is also fine, but the better way is to have all the parts available. Okay. Now, inside of a for loop, there is a different type of for loop. We looked at it yesterday. It is called as enhanced for loop. And usually it is basically used if you have, let's say, list. Okay. List of, let's say, account records, or list of integer. And let's say we have a list of account records, and what you can do is, and this list has about 5 account records. So you can go ahead and create a for loop, and for each item in this list, what is the type of each item? It is of the type account, right? So for every account, you are creating a temporary variable a, and it is going over this account list. Okay, ACCTS account list. And then you can use this enhanced for loop. There is a colon, not a semicolon, but a colon. And each time it is going to go over every element of this account list one by one. And for every element in this list, it will execute this for loop until all the elements of the list has been iterated. Iterated means it has gone over each element of the account list one by one. So this is called as enhanced for loop. Any questions up till now?
Devika, when it says it will go through the list, execute until the list is done, do you mean the 5 accounts in the list or the total unlimited account list?
No, only how many? See, I told you 5 accounts are in this list. So only
Okay,
it will iterate over those 5 accounts.
5 accounts. Okay,
Yeah, but if you have a query which pulls up 200 records, it will go through each of those records.
okay, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
now there are 2 more things inside of loops. One is called as continue, and the other is called as a break statement. Okay, so there are 2 important things you have. And what does it do is, if you want to exit out of a loop, okay, exit out of a loop, let's say you're running the loop for I is equals to 1, I less than equals to 5, and I plus plus. And here you're saying if I is equals to double equals to 3, break. Okay. And otherwise you're else, or system dot of debug, the print the value of I. So what happens is it will go ahead and print the value of I, 1 and 2. Moment it will see 3, you have a break statement. So break means it will exit out the loop, and basically the next iterations of this loop will not get executed, because at this condition it says, hey, the moment I is equals to 3, go ahead and break, means come out of this loop. So nothing after 2 will be printed. Instead of this, if I would have used continue, what will happen is this iteration, only this will be skipped. I is equals to 3, it will be skipped, and it will go to the next iteration. So it will print 1, 2, 4, and 5. So what is the difference between continue and break? Continue will skip the current iteration, and it will go to the next item or the next iteration. Okay, whereas break will completely exit you out of that loop. That is basically is the difference between break and continue. So this is all about the for loop. Okay, we talked about enhanced for loop, we talked about the regular for loop, we talked about continue, we talked about break. Okay, now let's go ahead.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you explain that continue and break again?
Okay, sure. So basically, continue and break is used to, first of all, continue is used if you want to skip a given iteration. Okay, or you can say that you want to skip a certain iteration. So here, let's say we have a loop for I is equals to 1, I less than equals to 10, I plus plus. Okay, I plus plus. And you said if maths dot mod, so there is a method available, it's called modulus. It basically say I comma 2 equals to 0, continue, else system dot of debug I. Okay, let's go ahead and do this program. Okay, so I'm going to go to the for loop here. Let's log in, and then I'll show you the difference in the outputs. Okay, so we go here, developer console. I'm using, since this is a simple code, I will be using directly the anonymous window. Okay, so here, let's do this. For loop, I'm initializing integer I is equals to 1, I less than equals to 10, and I plus plus. Okay, and here I'm saying if math dot of mod, I believe this is the method, I comma 2 double equals to 0, continue, else we will say system dot of debug I. Okay, so now what does this math.mod does? Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and check for math.mod function in Apex. Okay, and you have to tell me, looking at this, what does this function actually does? Let me see if there is a method, math methods. And we should have a, okay. Now tell me, looking at this, returns the remainder of integer value 1 divided by integer value 2. So it is basically just going to give you a remainder. Okay, and it is a static method, as you can see from the definition itself. It is a static method. So it is telling math dot of mod I comma 2. Okay, first time it is just going to give you remainder. So if it is maths dot comma 2, 4 divided by 2, remainder is what? 0. Okay, if I say 3 divided by 2, what is the remainder in this case? 1.
One.
So maths.mod is going to give you the remainder. Okay, so now going back to this particular code, can somebody tell me what's the output looks like? Without, what is going to be the output of this program? Somebody wants to take a guess?
It's going to be 0, 1.
Why it will be 0? First of all, that is wrong.
No, so it will start from 1, right? So 1, 3,
1, 3.
3, 5,
Okay.
7,
Mhm.
9.
Excellent. So here, okay, what is happening? Let me explain to you. So let's first verify the answer. We will go here, execute, and you can see here it prints 13579. Excellent. Now let's understand. So first time the value of I is equals to 1. Okay, first time the value of I is 1. It is checking 1 less than equals to 10. Yes, it is. 1 is less than 10. Then it is checking math.mod. So math.mod I comma 2. So what is I? I is 1, 1 comma 2. When you divide 1 by 2, the remainder is just going to be 1 in this case. Okay, so this condition does not meet. So continue statement will not get executed. Okay, and then I say system.debug of I. So what will be printed on the screen? 1 will be printed. Then I plus plus. What is the value of I? I becomes 2 now. Now maths.mod 2 uh 2 comma 2. So what is the remainder in this case? 0. So the condition meets. Moment the condition meets, it will go and execute this continue, means it will skip it. As I mentioned, continue will skip that iteration. Anything after that will not get executed and it will go to the next statement. So I becomes 3. So the that particular statement has been skipped. Okay, whatever moment it hit continue, it basically skipped that iteration, and whatever was done after it, it will jump directly to the next iteration. So I becomes 3 here. 3 is less than 10. Yes, 3 is less than equals to 10. What is maths.mod 3 comma 2? It is going to give you 1, which is also not equals to 0. So if block won't get executed, it will come to the else block and it will print the value of 3. Then I becomes 4. 4 is less than 10. Yes, modulus of 4 comma 2 is 0. So it will again continue. So it will skip 4, jump to the next one is 5. So did you understand how it is doing displaying 13579?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Now, if I change this from continue to break, what's going to happen is it will come outside of this loop right away. Okay, moment it hits this condition. So anybody wants to take the guess what will be the output of this program?
One.
Only 1.
Very good. Only 1 will be printed here because when it goes to 2, 2 comma 2 is equals to 0, and break means you come out of that loop and only 1 will be displayed onto the screen. Okay, so that is your difference between continue and break statements. Now let's go ahead and do an example, couple of example actually related to for loops today. And then we will talk about while and do while. Okay, so this one is simple. We've already seen it. Now let's go to this one, for loop. Let's do this. Everybody give me the answer to this one. I don't have to declare. I'm just going to look at here. Okay. What's going to be the output of this program? Put it in the chat, guys. You have 1 minute. Okay, everybody done? I am looking for the answers. Okay, fruit 1, apple, banana, mango, grapes. Excellent. Rafini, why do you think it's only going to be apple and banana? Rafini, explain me how this is going to work. Just like I explained to you, now you have to explain.
I have hard time having my cursor. No, that was a mistake with Deepika.
Okay, so now explain.
Accidentally entered the list.
Okay, so what's going to be, how this is going to execute?
That they, I am having trouble with my screen. Okay, the first in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you loud and clear.
Okay, the fruit would be apple, and then incrementing I+1, and first taking the size of the list, so that means it is
So let's look at this one. So tell me what will be the debug statement looks like.
this fruit plus I+1. That means this 0 plus 1.
Hmm.
And then the fruit of 1, that is banana.
No. Okay, so first time fruit, I+1. What is I+1?
I+1, that is 1.
Okay, so I written 1, then colon, right?
Yeah.
Then what it is? Fruits of what?
Fruit of 1. That is.
No, what is the value? First time, what is the value of I?
That is 0. But right now the I is 1.
Where do you see I as 1? It starts from 0.
Okay.
Okay, here you did 0 plus 1. You're not putting that value in I. You're just doing 0 plus 1. That makes it 1. Then it is saying I is still 0. So fruits of 0 is what?
Fruit of 0 is apple.
Okay. Then what will happen next?
Then the I is incremented.
Okay, so what is the value of I now?
That is 1.
Very good. So next, what will be displayed?
Fruit of 2.
Okay.
That, and then the I is incremented, and fruit of 2 is banana.
Okay. Then
I is incremented again.
okay, so what will be the new value of I?
That is 3.
Okay.
And fruit of 3
What
is
happened to I is equals to 2?
I is 2 is banana. We already wrote that.
That is I of okay. So if you're talking about a list, what is that index of 0?
0, it is apple.
Okay, what is that index of 1?
Index of 1 is banana.
What is that index of 2?
It's mango.
Okay, so you have done index of 1, sorry, index of 1, which is banana. So then you incremented the value of I from 1 to 2. So then it becomes fruit of 3, colon, what is fruit of 2? 2 is 0, 1, 2, mango. And then it became fruit 4, colon, and then grapes.
Okay.
Okay, so this I plus 1 is not incrementing the value of I by 1. It is only doing I plus 1. This is just 0 plus 1, 1, 1 plus 1, 2, just like that. So if you execute this program, whoever's output matches, this is the output. Fruit 1, fruit 2, fruit 3, and fruit 4. Okay, if I would have done something like this, what is going to be the output?
Pretty same.
Will be this.
It's going the same.
Yeah.
Okay, how about now?
The last apple it won't.
It will not allow you putting apple. It will be same now.
It'll be same because the expression
It
must
doesn't
be
allow duplicate.
the set won't allow
That's it. No duplicates instead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're trying to create it, it's going to wait a minute. The add won't work. Expression must be of the type list type. Zero string fruits. This one, I think. Oh, so you have to use it list. That's not the way. Okay.
For list, do we have to use the round bracket instead of that curly braces for set? I could be wrong though.
No, it's you can either it should be for both list and set, but either you can use that add operator to add the elements to the set. Okay. So now the next one is you could have used this the same way instead of doing this is also, right? Instead of using the regular for loop, you're using the enhanced for loop. The result is going to be same. So I'm not going to give you that. Next one we have, so let's go back here. Looping in programming is a feature which facilitates the execution of a set of instructions repeatedly while some condition evaluates to true. So as long as the condition is true, those set of instructions will get executed on repeat. Moment those instructions, moment those condition becomes false, it will come out of that loop and it will go to the next statement outside of the for loop. There are three main types: while, for, and do while loop. Now here, how is while loop written? So first in the while loop, the initialization part is outside. So here we'll say integer I is equals to 1. Then we will say while I less than equals to 5. And then we will have our loop, and then before the loop ends we will say I plus plus. Okay, so basically the for loop is much easier to write. You have everything in one go, whereas in while loop you initialize it before, then you write your while, you check the condition. As long as the condition is true, it will come inside of this loop, execute all the instructions, and then you have I plus plus or I minus minus, whatever it is. Okay, so first of all, the condition check would be there. If it is true, the statement inside the loop will get executed. If the condition is false, it will come out of the loop. That is what a while loop is. Okay, so
I have a
yeah,
question.
anybody has a question? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. I have two questions actually.
What is it?
So when it comes to bulkification, we prefer enhanced for loop over than traditional for loop.
Yeah.
Is that correct to
Yes.
say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It has nothing
Okay.
to do with bulkification, but when you're iterating over a list or a collection, it's better to use a enhanced for loop rather than there is just the way you write it, whichever you're comfortable with. Nothing wrong with it. You can do integer I. Like if I would have said, if I had a list, how would you do it through the regular for loop? How will you start? If you had a list of accounts, how will you start? How will you write it in a traditional for loop versus a enhanced for loop?
I would use enhanced for loop.
Yes, you will use enhanced for loop. But if it was a list of account, you can also do for the same thing. Integer I is equals to 0. You'll start from 0. I less than the size of the list dot of size method you will use, whatever the name of the list is. And then you will say I plus plus. And then, yeah, this is one way of doing it. But the better way is just using the enhanced for loop. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What was
Okay.
the other question?
It's about the while loop. When do we use while loop? If there is a condition, we use
Mhm.
while loop, right? While in the for loop, we can have the condition too. Is that correct to say?
Yeah. Okay. So basically, what it is telling you, as if you don't know how long the loop will run for. Like if you just want to do it as long as the condition holds true, that is when you're going to use a while loop versus a for loop. So as long, see here the conditions are pretty much the same. You know, here they knew, okay, run it for 10 times. But if here if you don't know, you starts the count by 0, it's pretty much similar. So I don't know, there's not much API called until you reach a limit, looping until all records are processed in batches. So in those scenarios, when you don't know how many iterations is going to happen, that's when you're going to use a while loop versus a for loop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes
So
sense.
here,
So when
like here you can say count is equals to 0. You start with count. You say as long as count is less than 5, you have a condition. And if you have, let's say, limits, if you just wanted to see as long as the limit holds true, you're going to keep executing it. In
right,
the case of for loop, you know that, okay, when to start, where to end. But it could be used either way. You could have used for loop also in this case for
right,
count less than 5. There's no, I could have used the for loop. So they go hand in hand. It's no which is the right way. Majority of the time you're going to see a for loop in real world, but for and while loop are the most commonly used. Do while I haven't seen many times, to be
right.
honest.
So when there is a limit or condition, that would be better to use while. That's why I understand.
Yeah, it's just a condition and you want to initialize it before that. The way you write it is slightly different. In the case of for loop, you initialization, condition, and increment, decrement all happen in one line, whereas in while you initialize it first, then you check the condition, and then you write your statements.
So would it can I say that for loop is a little bit faster than while loop, or it's not correct?
No, I won't say that. Computation behind the scene, I don't think there is a difference between how fast one is. Yeah, this is a good point. For loop, there is less risk of getting into an infinite loop. While loop has a risk of infinite loop. Infinite loop means when you don't have an exit condition and your loop keep on continuing it and it goes up till your infinite. So for example, in this case, if I go, if I say while, let's say we do this integer I is equals to 1 while I less than 10. And you are saying system.debug I. Now, this will result into an infinite loop because 1 is less than 10, okay, and you are not incrementing and decrementing. So this can result into a more infinite loops, whereas in for loop, you won't miss adding I plus plus or something. If you miss over there also, then it will give you that, okay, it won't give you an error, but that also can result into an infinite loop. So if you have, let's say 4, and if you did something like this is an infinite loop, okay? And there's nothing wrong syntax wise, but it'll keep on continuing it. Here, the chances of getting into while into an infinite loop is much higher as compared to a for loop. Now let's talk about, so this is how for loop is written. You have an initialization, testing condition, increment and decrement, and then statements inside the for loop. So here you start with initialization. So initialization only happen one time. Once initialization is done, the condition checking happens. Then if the conditions is true, the statements inside the for loop will be executed. Once those executed, it will go to the increment decrement part. Again, the condition will be checked. If it is true, the statements will get executed, and then the increment decrement. After increment decrement condition becomes false, then it will end that loop. So this is the flow chart of how the for loop works. So these are the different ways of writing a for loop. So you can see here, one of the way we talked about was this. You have an initialization condition, exit condition, and increment statement, and then you have block of code. If you have a list or a set to iterate over, you can use this enhanced for loop. You create a variable, and then you will iterate over that list or set. Then you can also write a SQL query this query is not going to run multiple times. It is only going to run one time. Whatever the results of the query is, you're iterating over those results one by one. So you can do if this way as well also. So you can say account A, and here you can say select, you can write a query, select ID, comma, name from account. Okay, and then it will iterate over each of those account one by one. And then you can say system.of_debug display the value of a.of_name. So it will print all the names of each of those accounts. So you can write a SQL query as well inside a for loop. Okay. Now, the next one is we talked about break and continue. The break statement is used to jump out of a loop. Continue statement breaks one iteration in the loop if a specified condition occurs and continues with the next iteration in the loop. So it will skip that particular iteration and will go to the next one. Okay. Break will basically exit you out of that loop. So that is what the break is. Where is my do while? Okay, so now I don't know if I didn't have it. So do while is written like this. Do first, you will go ahead and do these instructions, and then you have a while I less than equals to 5. So basically even if the condition, the main difference between a while and a do while is a while condition, if the condition doesn't meet for the very first time, while loop will not get executed even once. Whereas a do while loop, if the condition doesn't meet even for the very first time, then also the do while loop will at least run one time. Okay, because what is the order here? First, do the instructions and then check the condition. So even if the condition doesn't meet for the very first time, the instructions will run at least for one time in the case of do while loop. Whereas if the condition doesn't meet for the very first time, let's say you say I is equals to 5, you're checking I less than 5, performing these instructions, and then you're doing I plus plus. This loop will not going to go execute because the condition itself, 5 is not less than 5, 5 is equals to 5. So these instructions will not get executed. But if you would have written something like this, do print the value of I while I less than 5, it is going to print the value for the very first time of I will be 5, and then it is checking the condition, hey, 5 is not less than 5. So even if the condition doesn't meet, do while loop will run at least for one time. That is the main difference between a while loop and a do while loop. If you want to run for at least a minimum of one time, that's when you're going to use a do while loop. Now let's go over to a couple of examples and things will get clear. So here I have a do while loop here. This is how you're going to say debug. Okay, so I am initializing the number one variable is equals to 1. I am printing the value of num. I'm incrementing the value of num. And then I'm checking 1 is less than equals to 5. So now if I start with 10, okay, so 10 is not less than equals to 5. Even if the condition doesn't meet, even if this particular condition num less than equals to 5 doesn't meet, still this loop will run at least one. It will print the value of number is 10. So if I go ahead and execute it, wait a minute, what happened? Okay, this is an extra. Okay. So you can see here, it ran for one time. Even if the condition was not right, the value of I was 10. You can see here, the value of number was 10 and condition is this. But if you would have written a while loop, okay, same thing, while number less than equals to 5, and then you are saying system.of_debug, these two conditions, the while loop is not going to get executed. Okay, so the while loop is not going to get executed, but the do while will get executed. You can see here only the do while statement. Let me see, do while, and this is while. Okay, so this is never ever gonna get executed. Only the do while loop runs. So if you want to minimum for one time you want to execute something, that's when you're going to use a do while loop. Okay, so next question is this one. Break, we did it. Let's go ahead and do this. Okay.
What are the scenarios that you have to use the do while, even though it doesn't give us the right result?
So in if you just the main thing is if you just want to execute something for only one time, initially I'll tell you, let's say you will use it. Let me think about some scenario. See, I can't come up with a top of my head what a scenario would be where you have to print it at least one. If a condition comes up, when you just have to execute certain batch of code only for one time, you can actually just do it as a sequence. No, I can't think of anything at the moment, to be honest with you. I'll probably come up with something tomorrow. I have to think about it, or I have to look into up where will you use a do while just to print one time. Can anybody else think of something? Okay, so this one basically you will use, yeah, this is a good example. Retry. So let's say if you have you're making a call out to an external system, okay, and you wanted to go ahead, and if that system is returning you errors, you wanted to try something maximum 3 times. So you can't say while I less than 0 here. You this will at least call the service minimum at the very first try. You will get the result. If it doesn't give you any success, you will retry the count. You will run it at least three more times to see if it gets the response in the next time. But minimum of one time you have to make the call out. That is when you're going to use something called as a do while, where the call out needs to happen minimum of one time.
Yes, that was me. Yeah, it does make sense that
Yes.
so you want to limit, you want to try some logic, but you want to restrict the limit so that the loop doesn't go on and on and hit the governor's limit.
Here, see here, so if you look at it, it is calling an external service, right?
Yeah.
So calling the external service, it has to call the service minimum of one time. So you're saying the retry count, you start with 0, okay? If you would have said while retry count is less than 3, it will keep on executing it. But if you have written in such a way, what's happening is it is calling the service, and if it for at least one time, and if that service returned a response, it is not going to go to the catch block, and it will just it will only execute it one time. Okay, so now let's understand.
I think it's that's a similar with the while loop. Like it's only
no, in the while loop, what's gonna
sorry,
happen?
the for loop that is gonna one time, and then if it is executed.
No, for loop also not gonna do not minimum of one time. So let's say here, very good example. So let's say you have retry count is equals to 0. Okay. Success is equals to false. Now forget about try and catch. So this is just to handle an exception. Okay, so here it is saying they have written this calling an external system inside of a do while loop. So this particular external service, when it got called, it gave you, if it didn't result into an exception. If it didn't result into an exception, success became true. Okay, so means this service gave you some response. Then this catch block is not going to get executed because no exception was thrown. Okay, so then you're saying while not success. Now what is if it is not successful, means here not of true will become what? Not of true is false, and retry count is 0 less than 3, which is, this is true. 0 is less than 3, but not of true is false. So what will happen is, since it gave you a response in the very first time, the call out is not going to happen again. But you wanted the call out to at least happen one time. That's why you have put this inside of a do loop. Does it make sense? If you would have changed it to a while loop, if you said while, and here you are saying call external system and success is equals to true, okay, and then at the condition, in the same way condition is there, and then you say condition is while not of success. So first time success is false, so this is not of false would be true. Not of false is going to be true, so this is going to be true, and 0 is less than 3. So this will return into while, so this loop will run, okay, and then here call will external system will happen, then call of external system will happen, success becomes true, okay, and then success becomes true here, and then again the condition would be checked. Retry count get executed. Let me see.
Right. So
yeah,
at least once we want it to run, we need to do.
Yeah, but I'm trying to understand how will this, how can we do the same thing with the while loop also? This should be able to be done with the while loop.
No, the difference is that if it's false, in while loop it is not gonna run, but in do while we make sure that
it will run at least one time.
Once.
Yeah, that's true. But how would I write it in a while loop to make it run? Because if I write it in a while loop, it would be something like while the same condition, not of success and retry count. Not of success is false becomes true, true and retry count 0 less than 3. It will run and it will keep on executing it. So it will call the external service.
So, Deepika, I also noticed that for the initialization, using the initialization within the loop structure. Otherwise,
no, initialization will happen outside.
For the
even for the do also.
One is inside the loop, the other one is outside the loop.
No, do is also outside the loop, while is also outside the loop. Only in the case of for, you're doing the initialization inside the loop.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Could we say that because the initial value is false, if we have a while loop, we can't run it, while in do while it runs at least once? Can I
exactly? Yes, because here, but the problem is if you had false of success becomes a true, and okay, now if I had, let me see. I wanted to ask this again. How it is going to be different for a while loop. So this is gonna, the call system always run at least one, even if success is false before the loop starts. Only after the first attempt does the loop check this one. This is why do while is useful for retry. Okay, here if you convert this to a normal while loop, okay, execute once, the loop will not run at all if the condition is false at the beginning. So the retry count was 0 in the beginning. Retry count was 0, right? So 0, both, even in this case, the 0 less than 3, success false becomes true. It will run it, success is equals to true. Oh. If something sets success is equals to true before the loop, okay, so basically just saying if you somehow if the success value was true, this while loop will never get executed. But in the case of do while, it will at least get executed one time. So if you want to do a call out minimum of one time, you will use a do while instead of a while loop. Because if this value was set to true, then this while loop will never get executed. So especially in the case of callouts and in the case of retry logic, you will do a while and a do while loop. Does that
Thank
make
you.
sense, guys? I
Yeah,
think this
makes
was
sense.
very clear on when will you use a while loop. So for retry logic, making external callouts where you want to run the callout at least once, you will use a do while loop in that case.
Yeah.
Now this is what's going to be the output of this program, guys. Let me simple ones. And I wanted to cover constructors, so let's talk about them tomorrow. And if time permits, we'll talk about integration. That way your building blocks would be done, then it will be much more easy. Then it's going to be a little bit more advanced concepts. So what's going to be the output of this program? Everybody put it in their
Really 1 to 4,
okay, then
and then it will break, right?
so will this statement will get printed?
In case of 5, yes, 5
Yes.
also it will get.
So first it is going to print current number is
One.
1, 2,
1, 3,
3,
and
4,
4.
and
Breaking
then
the loop at 5.
breaking the
Breaking.
loop at 5. Okay, that should be the output of this program. Execute it, and so you can see here breaking the loop at 5. Okay, now the next one, continue. We did it. We talked about list. Now I have some more examples. Just a few before we wrap up. Okay, so what is going to be the output of this program? First of all, somebody needs to explain to me what we are doing. Okay, so what are we doing here?
So first we have a list of the leads, right? That we have a select statement.
Okay,
and
what is
the-
this next statement is going to do?
So it's gonna go over all the leads and get back ID, status, and rating. And the condition is that is converted is false.
Okay, so
So
if
I
I
think
go
that means
to
that it's not converted. The leads that are not converted.
leads that are not converted, very good. So if I execute this, let's see how many records. So I get about 16 records. Okay, then what's going to happen? Then what's
Then,
happening next?
then we have a list of them, and then we have a for loop that.
What is this doing?
So we have a new list of the leads that are ready to convert.
How many elements are there in this list?
0 as of now.
0 as of now. Very good. Next.
And then we have a for loop with the if condition.
Okay.
If it's
So
qualified.
for loop is going over what?
The first list, the lead list.
Okay, very good. The ones which has 16 records.
Yeah, the ones that, so basically we go through all the leads that are not converted, and we check if the status is qualified and rating is hot, we add it to the second list ready to convert.
Awesome. You guys are following very well. Okay, and then
we print it.
very good. So here I can just do how many are going to be the ones ready to convert is pretty much 0. None of them had a qualified and a hot rating. So that's why I didn't give you anything. If you look at the query, see, so status is open. There was no rating field. That's the one. That's the problem. So status was open. Let's see. And then you're gonna ready to convert. If I remove it, you will have 16 records that are ready. Okay, so all these are in open. So we just updated the condition. That's why we had ready to convert. Then the next one we have is this one. Now tell me what's going on over here. Okay, not the same person. Somebody else is going to explain to me. Okay, what are we doing here? Guys, do I need to pick up somebody from the list? How about Avnish? What are we doing here?
Yeah, so we are querying the account, the 50 accounts from the account table here
And
in the
then what is
first.
this doing?
So this is an inner query from the so that will be from the contacts. So
Okay, so what
contacts has
is
a relationship
uh-huh.
with the account.
Very
So
good.
that has relationship. So we can directly do the inner query while if we want to select few fields from the contact as well.
Okay. So basically, this query is going to return the account and the associated contacts related to that account. Okay. Okay. Then what?
So then we are creating a new map, which is a ID of accounts plus the associated contact.
Okay.
ID of account with associated contact. So that
Okay.
we are initializing on line number 7. Then we are iterating over through
How do you know
account.
this ID? Okay, this ID is for ID of account or contact. Where does it say that? We ever
No,
here it
so
just ID.
it so when we declare it, right? So internally Apex, whatever, so wherever we are putting a query from which table we are doing, right? The
Mhm.
parent table. So it takes that ID
Awesome.
automatically in this ID.
Awesome. Okay, so here since we are doing it from the account, the ID of the account will be
ID.
here.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And it takes the list of the contacts so that are associated with one account. So
Okay.
we are initializing this with the map. Okay. And in the line number 9, we are going through the account list
Hmm.
and we are creating a line number 10. We are creating a list of contacts, then iterating over through account dot contacts
Okay.
from the previous list that we got, right? Line number 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are iterating over through that contacts. We are adding that into a temporary list which we created at line number 10.
Hmm.
And then line number 16, we are putting them into the map that we created on line number 7 with account ID and the account list that we just created
Okay.
in line number
So
10.
basically, it is doing a map of account ID to the list of contacts. Okay, that is the map that this one is creating. So if you execute this, this is how it's going. So this is the account ID 001. With this account ID, we have these many contacts. Then it will go to the next account. What are the contacts associated with it? So it is going to create a map of those list of contacts to the account ID. Did everybody understood this code?
Yes. Thank
Okay. So I'm going to give you the assignment
So,
after
Deepika,
this.
so before we move ahead, right, I have one question. So, since line number 1, I means because I know that this is something that if we put ID and we put from the account, and when we create a map, it takes ID. Can we take any other than ID? Can we take, let's say, account as a name also or email something, right? So, in line number say 7, can we say that name comma list of account?
So here you have to explicitly use it. So if you're going to say here, you're going to say string, and then here you're going to say string again, and then instead of account.id, you're going to say account.name.
No. Okay.
Is there-
Got
So
it.
but here since it is automatically it will take the ID, but if you had, let's say, name and then you had type, then it doesn't know which one, right? So in order to, you have to
Okay, got it.
explicitly say it.
Got it.
How do you want to
Because
say it?
ID would be one, right? All the
Yeah,
at the
ID is going to be just once,
correct.
but here this is can be multiple, so that's why you can explicitly say account name with the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Now, guys, there is one concept left, which is constructors and then inheritance and exceptions. These are the small topics. Then you're basically the basics of Apex would be finished. Then we'll move to the more advanced topics like batch processing, triggers, uh, future methods, queuable, all of that. And then we will also do a small end-to-end project. We also have a project coming up where we will read from a CSV file and create records into the database. So that's a small project we will do in about 2 or 3 classes.
Perfect.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I will talk to you tomorrow.